Greetings, this is Byrne Power, and as part of my Gravity from Above project, which I've been working on for years, one of the things that has really struck me has been the carving of puppets, particularly in the Czech Republic. Puppets are carved, of course, in many countries, but the Czechs really make a specialty of their carvings. They use linden wood predominantly, and their carvings, for instance, I was in Eastern Germany. I met some people from Der Weite Theater. They had puppets carved. I said, "Where did you get your puppets carved?" They said, the Czech Republic. So that led me on an investigation of carving in the Czech Republic.
Here in Czech Republic, there is tradition of puppetry is very rooted. So schools go normally. It's normal to go to the puppet theater once, twice a year, and to have puppeteers coming to kindergarten or to schools to perform 3-4 times a year. For children, it's normal to see puppet shows in a TV. So it's rooted in Czech culture. There is connection with animation. So most, like 90% of Czech animation is puppetry. So it's puppets with metal armature inside, not strings, armature inside. So it's animated. It's not CGI. It's not that computer-made animation. And people see that, and they are used to see that, and they like it. So puppetry here is not something alien. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our culture, and it's now registered by UNESCO. Czech puppetry. So it's still puppets are parts of like musicals, like Shrek has a puppet. Different production in big theaters, they have puppets involved, or films, or if it's not exactly like puppets, there is a lot of objects and imagination connected to the puppets. So it's still living there and inspiring producers, designers, actors, directors. So it's even with mobile phone, you have a camera there, and you can do short films with that. So with a mobile phone, you can do animation. You can record and show movie with the puppets and with objects, with actors. So it can help. So the technology became so available and cheap. So everybody has video camera, everybody has a mobile phone with a recording. So I see it more positive, or I try to see it more positive way. If there are creative people and they got in hands these tools, they can create a lot of nice things.
This is one of Mirek's fantoccini, or trick puppets. There's a long tradition of these puppets that disassemble themselves on stage, and he's showing one of them here.
In 1880s, 90s, 1910, 1920, 1930, there was big movement of hobby puppeteers, amateurs, groups, a lot of groups. So they had the luxury to have, because they had a lot of members, there can be one person, one puppet. sometimes 2 persons for one puppet. One was speaker, one was manipulator. So the puppets became very complicated, lot of strings and a lot of different movements. Yeah. Hello.
I then asked Mirek to show me more of how puppets are made in his studio.
So here you see different stages. This is first is block, then we cut it on benzo, next room. When it's cut, looks like that, and then it became carved. This is all linden wood, and these are different parts. Like this is box only hands, where I show different joints, how the joints are made, created, how they work, different methods, different shapes. Here is a box full of, or this can move like that.
Mm-hmm. Where do you do the actual carving?
Carving happens here in this bench. So we use these wood carving benches, where you fix object to be carved here in the vise, and you use different sorts of chisels, different shapes, sizes. For example, this. So work like that. Shaping it, carving, turning like this.
Oh, aren't there other names for linden wood in different countries?
For example, in Czech Republic is lipa, which is similar.
Is linden the German name?
Linden is German.
Yes, yes.
Linden is ideal because it's used for wood carving for centuries. All the Baroque church sculptures, all that angels on altar, this is linden, because it's not hard, but hard enough to keep shapes. So if I will carve this in some soft wood, it will break immediately.
Right.
But linden is able to keep these shapes without breaking.
Right.
But still is not hard to carve it. Like oak or beechwood will be much harder and much heavier. And weight is important, because if you perform with a puppet for half an hour, you really realize that
you wouldn't want to use oak.
Is an issue. And also here we don't see the grains. We don't see grains because the texture and structure of linden is very compact.
Yeah. Is there any problem with losing linden trees? Are there enough?
So far they are everywhere. It's
a pretty common.
That's not.
Yeah, that's good.
So far, maybe in 1,000 years, but or when people kill all the nature, but it will be all trees gone. There is still enough. It's a Czech national tree. So it's everywhere in a park. If you walk from this house 20 meters, you will have
linden trees. We'll come back to Mirek's studio a little bit later to see his wooden automaton. This is my friend and carver Lenka Pavlíčková, and she is married to George Keane. They live in northern England. I went to visit her in 2012 and to talk with her a little bit about how she carves puppets. She is, of course, Czech as well, and discusses how she didn't begin doing puppetry on her own. Actually, her mother was making puppets, and I think her grandfather was making puppets. Anyway, there is a real tradition in the Czech Republic of puppetry, more so than in most countries I know of. By the way she is carving with the blade going straight into her chest, don't try this at home. She's really a skilled professional, and she has a block of wood. She's got leather, a huge piece of leather, a block of wood, and it's gone through both of those things before. So she does have scars to show it. One of the reasons I was going to see Lenka was that I had commissioned a puppet to be made by her, a traditional Czech marionette. And I'll show this to you a little bit later, but I was quite impressed with the craft of her puppetry. And so I asked her several questions about how she made puppets, techniques and styles, but also what influenced her and what were her inspirations.
My first experience as a child was my grandfather. He played puppet theater with puppets, and it was quite exciting for us because it was like, instead of fairy tale in TV, he played some performances, or just for him it could be just one marionette, small marionette, or two, and he could make up some story. And then my mother, she wanted to give him a present, and she tried to make a marionette, modeled marionette, and she made it. It was nice marionette, and then she started to make next one and next one and next one, and I really like it and enjoy it. And after my school, I tried. It was holiday, it was summer, and I tried to do it also, and I enjoy it. So I remember it was small puppet stage with some different backgrounds, with small marionettes, like such size, maybe 25 centimeters, or not 20 centimeters tall. When I started my model marionettes, it's just I learned it like myself, and then I wished to carve wooden marionettes, and I just got a few lessons, and then you need to learn many hours and days.
I also asked Lenka about when she first started being aware of puppets and puppetry, and obviously it was as a young child, but I thought I'd let her explain some of her earliest influences of puppetry.
I remember as child, we went somewhere to see some performances, sometimes puppet performances, and then when I grew up, I was obviously interested in puppets, And I saw some puppet performances in Prague, and when we did some events or exhibitions or workshops, a few times I cooperated with puppeteers, professional puppeteers.
One of the most important Czech filmmakers, the stop-motion puppet animator Jiří Trnka, and he had an influence upon her, as he had upon most Czechs who make stop-motion animation puppets.
Jiří Trnka, his beautiful illustrations and animation and movies. Of course, you have got some technical style, but I think what it's on a marionette, it's important and should dominate head and hands. And what's my style like? Maybe my big hands and thin fingers. It's always like about feelings, and I just remember once I created like Depression Man or Depression Man. Yeah, it was maybe scary. Different ways, like they love it, they enjoy it, like they love it, they like it's exciting for them, and some people they are scared, like really scared that they just don't want to touch it, and
In the year 2009, I received a grant from the Rasmussen Foundation in Alaska to make a puppet show, and it was going to be called The Great Ziggurat, and it was going to be kind of meditations on the Tower of Babel and tower imagery in general. And I needed a puppet built, and so I found the old head of Sargon of the Cod and had Lenka do a version of that to turn him into Nimrod of the Tower of Babel story, which historically is probably accurate. They probably are the same figure. And as you can see, it is a stunning work of art. One of the things that struck me when I first entered Mirek's Puppets in Prague studio, where he also teaches puppetry, and I will put a link below where you can get in touch with him about classes in wood carving. I saw a wooden automaton, which just was completely fascinating to me. And so I entered his lair and asked him to show it to me some more and to explain his ideas about it.
Mm-hmm. It will work all at once. And here is a puppets with strings like that. which have been used in a theater show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love this old automata stuff.
I do too.
So I'm trying.
Well, this is almost the missing link between the automata and the puppet. And that's what I like about it. It's because it's old school. It's strings, very primitive wooden devices, and yet
use. I found a friend who is interested in like these computers which are involved in this. So he is helping me with software.
So there's some sort of computer in there?
It's made it all possible. So this is giving instructions to all motors to now move, now stop, go this way, stop now. You know? So we can program it so it can, for example, walk and move with hands like that, or stop and move with hands like that, or with hand like that, or with head like that. If you paint picture, you paint pictures, and then it's in a storage or is hanging in somebody's wall. If you make sculpture, it's, if you are lucky, it's on exhibition or in somebody's shelf. In the living room. With a theater, puppet theater, you make a sculpture which is movable, you paint it, you create costume, you make light design, create the stage, and then you have literature coming, story, some sentences, music. So it's really a lot of arts connected. So it's, if you are lucky and you make show with some people or some group, you meet interesting people, and so it's not only working alone in a studio, but yes, you work alone in a studio and then you take the product and you put it on stage and you have a cooperation with other creative people where you try to make some product which is interesting for audience. The audience is coming and it's involved in a story, and they can be moved and happy and smile and laugh or cry.
Do you think the fact that you can touch puppets is important? That they're real, they're physical?
For a lot of people, it's becoming important because we live in a world where there is a lot of stuff somewhere in a cloud, somewhere in the air, not real. Money are not real. They are somewhere on the internet. Letters are, and a lot of pictures, a lot of work, a lot of parts of people's life are somewhere, and people write something all day, and it doesn't exist. It's somewhere, and they want to touch things. So people are fascinated by real objects, like people do gardening, sculpting, painting, and if possible, carving. These people, a lot of people coming to our workshop, they say, I work all day with computer, I animate something, but I can't touch it. So I came here to learn how to carve and how to do real object, which I can touch.
One of the things I've discovered about puppetry over the years is generally, not always, but generally, there's a difference between the people who make puppets and the people who work with puppets in theater. And in the Czech Republic, you really feel the difference, that the puppet makers have a very specific outlook. They're much more tactile, they're like engineers almost. whereas the performers are much more freeform. And they generally will get their puppets made by someone else to their specifications. Now, I myself have adopted and made puppets. One of my most valuable possessions is the puppet I had Lenka make for me. I asked Mirek and Lenka, what is the point of puppetry in this age where just at the touch of a button, you have all the entertainment you want at the tip of your fingers?
It's a theater. Puppet theater is a place where a lot of skill and inspiration is connected to make nice product, if we are all lucky. Yeah. And if there are money for production and time and space. Yeah, that's why puppetry. Yeah. And on puppetry you can do a lot of things which you are not able to do with adults, with actors. Not adults and children.
Right.
With actor. You can't kill actor and cut him in half on a stage.
No.
They will not allow you for safety reason, but with puppet you can. You can have 5 the same characters carved, so they can pop out from different corners of a stage. They can be bigger, smaller, double head, eaten by dragon. They can die on stage, to be born on stage. So you can really do a lot of magic on stage, but only with puppet, not with actor. So that's in puppet theater there is involved much more of fantasy, creativity, and a lot of nice pictures, visions, than in acting theater. Yeah, that's why puppetry. That's why people choose puppetry, and that's why people choose puppet films. Why they do puppet films? Because in puppet film you can do things which are impossible with real objects, real actors. So that's why it's more creative.
I think it's about imagination and fantasy, because I think like computers doesn't give you some fantasy, or doesn't it? When you make puppets, when you play with puppets, it's big space for imagination, fantasy, and I think it's better also for children not to give them computer play games. But puppet, it's something else. It's a game, play, imagination, fantasy.
So finally, thanks for watching. I thought I'd give you a little taste of just a couple of the puppet carvers. It just seems like a good time to say, hey, make something, touch something physical. And if you want to get in touch with either Lenka or Mirek, the address is below, either on the video or in the link. Thanks.